All of us have a hunger of heart. Sometimes it's a little hard to tell what the heart really is hungering for. And the answer may be a little paradoxical, may surprise some people sometimes what's going on. Basically, I think what we're looking for is a place where we belong, where we're known, where we fit in. And so every church family has a neat little combination of folks. We have everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. And we all tend to be these people at one time or another in our life. And of course, we all attend the same congregation. So you know the story. There was an important job that needed to be done, and everybody's sure somebody would do it. Is it coming back to you? Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. And everybody blames somebody because nobody did what anybody could have done. We all know that. We know that story. We've seen it in the workplace. It may be on a bulletin at your workplace somewhere, stuck on a bulletin board, because it really makes a good point, and it's got a bit of humor in it because, as I've said, all of us have been, everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody, somewhere in different places, different times as we've gone along doing whatever it is that we do. And the sad thing is, or the odd thing is they're all in the same room. They're all there in the same vicinity of one another. But it doesn't make that deeper connection that the heart does desire for. It's kind of the secret sauce, and it's a little bit paradoxical. There's something in our heads, especially since COVID, that says, oh, I got to stay away from people. And the odd thing is, the only place we find our real satisfaction is when we draw in and get near to people. So we're in the same room, but belonging and commitment, that's a whole other thing. It's really different. So you can be in a crowd. I don't care which crowd you want to pick out. Think of an arena and you're at the football game or a basketball game, or maybe you've gone to a concert with your best friend and there's 10,000 people there. You don't know those people. You know the person you went with. You might look across the way and catch the eye of somebody else is there and smile and for a moment, and then you never see that person again. That's not the connection we're looking for. Customers, maybe you like going to Super One. I like going to Super One because it's only about 3 blocks from my house, right? And now and then I bump into some of you at Super One, but it's really, other customers can come and go and they can quit. And just because we went to the same place and bought our groceries at the same place, we didn't have any connection. We might pass each other in the aisle and smile, or we might stand in line and smile and exchange a little chit chat, but if they were to never come back to Super One, I wouldn't know it. They wouldn't know it if I never came back. It's that thing where we're in the vicinity of one another. We bump into one another now and then, but that's not the same as belonging and commitment to one another. And so we have the audience mentality, or we have a body, and we have a family. And a family, that deeper commitment where we encourage one another, we sharpen one another, we rub up against one another sometimes. That's where it happens. And I would suggest to you that's the only place it can happen, is in that very, very close connection that begins in the heart. So let's talk about our 4 characters for just a second. Everybody, this is our first character. He always knows what needs to be done. He can always figure it out. He can scope out the audience and go, you know what we need to do? But we is kind of generic. We is not me. We is somebody ought to be taking care of it. And as long as the we is never personal, but it's just, hey, look, I'm so good. I picked it out. I spotted. I know what y'all guys need to be doing. And it has that generality about it. Then it never becomes really personal, right? Then you got somebody. Somebody's carrying nearly everything because somebody's carrying something. It's getting done. She's dependable, but she's one tired saint, and no single saint was ever meant to carry the entire load. In fact, no single saint can do it. Then there's anybody. I think there's more of anybody. Anybody's really capable, but anybody waits. Anybody's like really willing, but you got to take this anybody by the hand almost and lead him specifically into a place. He's got to get some real specific instruction, because self-initiative and seeing it on his own and taking it up and doing it on his own, just really not in his toolbox. It's not in his realm. So it really, nothing really becomes his portion. He really doesn't own it. He's kind of like one of those temporary workers that you hire from Manpower or whatever kind of places they are now, where somebody didn't show up, you call and you get a temporary to fill in for you. And then there's a lot of nobody. Nobody's the guy that just thinks, well, hey, what have I got? Well, I don't have anything to offer. I'll attend. I'll just, kind of sneak in. I'll sneak out. And I'm never really going to make any connection with anybody. I just, it seems like a friendly enough group. And you know how that one works. So everybody wants church growth, right? We want a strong church. And that means we got to have the truth. And we got to have that mutual caring for one another. And I think growth is just automatically going to come out of that when you get that part right. And we all want a sense of mission, that, purpose and belonging and all that stuff. And it all kind of blends in. And then, as I say here, that's when the game of hot potato begins, because everybody's looking for somebody else to do it. It's one of those things. Anybody could do it, but nobody's going to get around to doing it, because that's kind of the way the mutual mentality tends to run. So we have a choice. Do I want to be a customer? Do I want to be that guy? That woman just arrives. I sit there and I receive, hopefully, a good sermon. Now, you can have your own opinion time this one's over, but hopefully you had a good sermon, you had a good song service, you had a good moment of reflection in the Lord's Supper, and you look at it and you go, today's worship was about a 7. Boy, 2 weeks ago we had about a 9.5. Oh, but I remember one of those is about a 3, And you leave and you go about your business. All right, then you have the family member. That's the one that's known. They're connected. We know what's going on. They're sharing burdens. They accept a portion of what's going on. And they're making efforts to stay connected. It's not just they're waiting for somebody to call them to be connected. They're also looking for, how can I connect? And so eventually, where the answer is, instead of that church, those people down there, let me tell you what they need to do. That's all. When that statement begins with that disassociation right off the beginning, they ought to be, you've already said something. And a lot of people don't pick up on that. It has to be our church. It's ours. It's us. It is we. It is a togetherness. And it is in that togetherness that is both positive and negative and neutral and profound and redundant and everything that humanity's made up of. It's in that depth where we start finding that thing that really fills the longing of our heart, when the local congregation really becomes my church family. So Hebrews 10:24 would say, consider how to stimulate one another to love and good deeds, encouraging one another. There's ellipsis in there because that's not the entire passage, of course. But that is what the family comes together to do. I don't know when it changed, how it changed, which you have to do a lot of history search, and I really don't want to advocate that we make major changes, but somehow we did get into the place where it is just the member's job to sit on the pew, sing when it's time to sing, bow their head when it's time to bow their head, put the money in the plate when the plate comes by, or for us, the box as you go out the door, and just sit and be a good member. That wasn't the original design. The original design was we came together in order to figure out, how can I stimulate one another to love and good works? How can I encourage one another? How can we interact on that emotional level? Not just sit through the same sermon, but have an interconnectedness that brings us together in ways that, frankly, a lot of people avoid. Because relationships are not easy. Relationships are not perfect. There are a lot of good marriages, but there is no perfect marriage. And you take the best marriage you can imagine, and I'll guarantee you multiple times over a 50-year stretch, one or the other rolled their eyes and go, I don't know what he's thinking. Because that's just how relationships work. And if that works in your closest, dearest, most precious, I would die for her relationship, then how's it going to work on the next ring out, and the next ring out, and the next ring out? The trick to it is to learn to love so much that, yes, I can't get rid of the eye rolling. You can't do that. This is humanity. We are people. You know, we said in the first service, it's not if you're going to make a mistake, it's when. And there are going to be times we're just going to look at you and go, yeah, not a good day, is it, right? But love is going to prevail over and through all of that. So as our little story unfolds, one day they're in their assembly place and nobody's seat was empty. So everybody, of course, everybody's the one that notices it, right? He's got it all figured out. And then somebody, of course, was overloaded. They're all busy doing something, and everybody's got a plate full nowadays. So anybody just assumed somebody'd take care of it. So no one called to say, hey, missed you today. Noticed you were gone. And so nobody sat at home thinking, well, I guess I really don't matter. I guess they really don't care for me that much. And so he missed that Sunday, and he missed the next, and he missed the next. And then this is where it stops being funny. Because while the story is humorous, this is the way it works out, doesn't it? We have people who get overlooked for various reasons, and let's be honest, some of them want to be overlooked. I can't explain that. I just know it happens, and you know it happens too. And then they just drift away, and they're gone. And a year later, we're sitting around going, you remember, what was their name? Claire, was it Clarence? Yeah. Whatever happened to him? And nobody knows. Because everybody thought somebody would do it. Nobody did what anybody could do. And each one could make a call. Each one could just look around and notice that kind of thing. Each one can just simply ask, and we can care. It's just simply bearing one another's burdens. Again, it's nothing really profound or fancy. So our character, anybody, finally decided he ought to be somebody, picked up the phone and just said, hey, I noticed you haven't been with us. Are you all right? Now, I want you to look at the complexity of that statement. I want you to look at how deep and how hard that is. And I want you to think how many years of college you're going to have, and then graduate school, and then training so you can pick up the phone and go, hey, no, she hadn't been with us. Are you all right? I mean, you can't just do that. Can you? Or can you? You see, because if it's a family reunion and somebody's not there, what are we going to do? We're going to pick up the phone and go, hey, Chuck, you weren't at the reunion. What's going on, man? You okay? If it's a workplace and a little get-together, a potluck or something. But nobody goes, well, I just didn't think anybody noticed. Now, we got to be fair. Nobody's part of the problem. Nobody slipped in. Nobody sat idle, quiet, trying to be invisible. And then nobody got up and slipped out as quick as could. So this gets redundant. Nobody would notice him. And so there's a mutual responsibility there. We're not trying to make somebody, anybody, and everybody villains here. It's all a mutual family coming together. So what the Bible describes is a body coming together and working together and taking responsibility. Nobody taking on one big single role. As we said in Bible classes, it's really just doing a lot of little bitty things over a long period of time. Can I say that again? A lot of little things. I've done it with Dave. Dave missed Wednesday night, after work late or something going on with his mama, and he wasn't there, and I don't know why he wasn't there. On the way home, I'm like, hey, Dave, what's going on? And he said, oh, this or that. Work kept us an extra hour, or sometime it's a family issue, we got to do something with Martha or what have you. And you go, okay, everything all right? Yeah, okay. And it's right back. That's it. That's the little bitty things. Just little bitty things. And that's what brings us together as a body. So God's placed us, each man, we're in the body, just as He desired. And we don't all have the same job. I don't want to come across snarky, but everybody can't be a song leader, amen? Everybody can't be a Bible class teacher. I'm sorry, it just don't work. Not everybody's got that talent. I think there's a little more flexibility there. Not everybody can preach. I wish we had more preachers, but let me give you just a little side point. Every religious group I am familiar with, and because of my volunteer work, I get to know quite a bit of them. Every single one of them has a shortage of young men coming up in the ministry as they define their ministry. It's just the way it is. And part of it is because not just anybody can have that job and preach. And so everybody's got a place. And while I believe anybody can make a phone call, the fact of the matter is sometimes your phone call means more than my phone call. Now, I don't get it, but it's either, oh, the preacher never called me, or you call him and they go, well, that's his job. He just had to call me. He didn't want to. And I'm like, what do I do with this one? I can't win this one. But when you make that same phone call, it's not your job. Not in the same way it's my job. You get it? And all of a sudden, somebody's going, oh, that's so sweet. They took time to call me. Now, again, I want you to think, how long is this going to take? 5 minutes? 10? Could take you half an hour. It just depends on who you're talking to. So we've got one body and we have 4 different warnings going on here. Everybody can't hand off his portion to somebody else because we also carry our own burden. Somebody can't be the whole body. There's no single person can handle it all. It just doesn't work that way. It's impossible. It's impossible in the family unit. It's impossible at the workplace. It's impossible in a social club. It's impossible in the church family. Anybody doesn't have to have a title to serve. Isn't that kind of neat? Anybody can just pick up the phone and go, hey, I missed you. Hey, I understand you're having surgery. How you got that planned out? You got your bases covered? Nobody is not a nobody. There is not a nobody in Christianity. Christ died for everybody, and everybody was worth the blood of Christ. And that person that kind of likes to stay on the periphery in the shadows a little bit for whatever psychological reason that is, they're still somebody Christ died for and shed his blood to bring into the family of God. So not everybody's job belongs to everybody, but every Christian has a job. We got one. Those jobs vary depending on where you're at. I won't belabor it long, but my number one job, the way I see it, you can argue with me a little bit, but being a married man, my number one job is to love my wife as Christ loved the church and to nurture and cherish her as my own body. There's number one for me because that's where I spend the bulk of my time, right? And then I have a job of learning to study to show myself approved to God, a workman need not be ashamed. And we can just run through those. We all have jobs, and some of the jobs are the same, and some of the jobs vary a little bit. If you're not married, then Ephesians 5 on being nurturing to your wife doesn't apply to you. And ladies, if you're not married, then submitting to your husband, that one doesn't apply to you either. When you get down to Ephesians 6:4 and it says, fathers, raise your children in nurture and admonition of the Lord. Well, right now that doesn't apply to Archer. He ain't got no kids. But it applies to Christopher pretty well right now, right? And we'll apply that to granddaddies too and make it apply to Chris also. I think grandparents play an important role. So we're at different places and we're different stages of life and things are coming and going and what have you. But every Christian has a job because this church family is every member's family. And that's where we start to fulfill the deeper desires of the heart and the hungers of the heart in that way. Now, again, I have to say it because now and then it's going to be messy because nobody's perfect. And now and then people are going to make you roll your eyes and go, what? And I don't know the answer to that because I just know humanity's kind of messed up sometimes and we do things that make other people wonder if we still have good sense or not. But I know enough to know that the answer is not to go hold up in isolation somewhere and hide away and never ever see anybody and stay isolated like a hermit. That's not the answer either because it's not good for man to be alone. And so it's in community where I find my deepest fulfillment, even if there is a little paradox in that. So one day, anybody, remember who anybody is. Anybody's the one that's got some talent, but just somebody takes him by the hand and starts showing him what to do. He's kind of like, One day he realized he was somebody. And he could do some things on his own initiative. And I think that's fantastic. So wishing is not doing. Boy, I wish I could. I wish I had I wish. Okay. How many of you don't have some past wishes? I wish I'd done some things. How many of you ever said, I wish I'd learned to play the piano when I was a kid? I wish my mom had made me do that. There ain't no way I'm doing it now, but if she'd made me do it when I didn't have a choice, then I'd know how to play the piano, right? There's some things I wish I'd done. How many of you have some things you wish you had not done? Boy, I wish I hadn't. We got wishing, but wishing doesn't change the past and it's not doing. Then we got noticing. And noticing gets a little grayer here because people who notice what needs to be done, they start thinking, I did something. Look at me, I noticed. Well, I'm glad you noticed. Now own it. Do something with it. Oh, no, no. Anybody is somebody. So the one who knows the right thing to do and does not do it, to him it is sin. That's James 4:17. And this is one of the things that we get trapped up in is, I can't. I can't. Well, if you believe you can or believe you can't, either way, you're absolutely correct. And the hardest walls to overcome are the walls you stick up in your own life. If you tell me I can't do something and I want to do it, I start getting a little spunky. Now, not as much as I used to, but I'm going to prove you wrong. You said I couldn't do it. Yes, I can. But when I set up the I can't and I say, look, I can't do that, and you start pushing back at me a little bit, going, no, Clarence, I think you can. I think you got some talent here. I'm like, oh, no, I don't. I'm going to prove you wrong. And then I'm going to set up my own failure so I can look at you later. Isn't this crazy? I'm going to set up my own failure so I can sit there as a loser and go, see, I told you were wrong. Well, what kind of trophy is that? I think, wouldn't it be wiser to go, okay, let's see if this brother's got any sense. We'll give it a try. And then later go on and go, wow, you were right. And now I'm at a whole new skill level. Noticing isn't doing anything. You got to do. You got to do the good you know to do. And if you don't do the good you know to do, it's a sin. Okay, let me clarify just a bit because I know sometimes people have trouble connecting the dots. How many times have you taken your bulletin, looked at your news and notes on Facebook and said, I need to give him a call. I really need to call her. Not right now. But I'm going to. I've noticed it. I've said I need to do it. It's been too long. I can't make that call now. That's all over anyway. Are you making the connection? Am I being clear enough without being too harsh about it? So everybody stopped saying they ought to. And everybody realized he was somebody. And nobody discovered that he was not a nobody, that there really was a place in the congregation for him, and they learned to fit in. And so the next time an empty seat came along and a visitor sat alone, everybody noticed. And somebody was busy helping somebody else, and anybody remembered when nobody's seat was empty and said, hey, I can walk across the room and say hello. Okay, I got to be a little silly, snarky again. How many years of college is it going to take to do this one? How much training? So I won't put Archer on the spot. I'm act like he's a visitor. And I see him sitting there. I'm like, hello, I'm Clarence Fell. They let me preach here. And your name is? Oh, wow, wait a minute. We're going to have a special class in the ministry program, and after 6 months we'll give you a certificate so that you can walk across the auditorium to somebody who's visiting and say, hello, my name is. Now, if you want to get really cheesy, I can get a whole box of those pads that say, hello, my name is. I'm not going to do that. That's too much. So we don't need a clever ministry program. We don't need elaborate programs. All we need are members who function in the body of Christ, doing the good they see to do around them. Just one little bitty thing at a time, over a long period of time. If it was an empty chair at a family table, that changes the room, doesn't it? It always does. And when we're a family and you leave your seat empty, it changes our room. We may not interact at a real intense level all the time, but those of us who are used to where everybody sits, I know Dave's not here most of the time if that seat's empty. Now, I have learned to look back to be sure he's not sitting with Miss Martha, but I know Miss Martha's not here when her seat's empty. And we just do that. And when it's empty, there's a little, there's a little, I hope everything's all right. I hope it's not a medical thing, but it's just that empty seat at the table. But we love all our family members. I had a friend once, he was a member, one of like 11, I think. I couldn't understand it because I only had two, but he said his mama said you just love all of them. And if she had more, she'd have loved every one of them too. And on the church family level, that's a little bit of what we're talking about. So our question is, do I attend or do I belong? And that is two major different things. Am I known? Do I let people get to know me? Now, you don't have to share everything, but there's a relationship beyond just sharing your name. Do I carry burdens now and then? And the burdens we're talking about so often are nothing more than saying a prayer together, acknowledging somebody's going through a hard time. I call it validation. I see you. I'm aware you're going through it, and I want you to know that I'm aware you're going through it. I realize most of the stuff that goes on, there's nothing I can do to fix it. There's not. So one of our members is going to have surgery in about 6 more weeks if she doesn't change her mind. I'm aware of it. I know she's getting ready to go through a lot, but I also know I can't fix it. But I can let her know I know and have the conversation, right? That's really when we're carrying burdens, with a few exceptions, that's so much of it. Am I contributing? Am I bringing whatever I have, my skill, to the table? Would my absence leave more than just an empty pew? And unfortunately, there's some folks, when they're gone, people are just like, oh, I didn't know they'd been gone. It's a two-way street. It works both ways. So now we are Christ's body. Individually, we're members of it. 1 Corinthians 12:27. And so everyone counts. Everybody's a part of the body. It all flows in there together. And then when we do that, the church starts to change. Because when we all say, hey, I am somebody. I'm part of the equation. I'm part of the answer. I don't carry the whole load, but I've got a place here. Then it starts to make a difference. So we'll close with this simple thought. Do I merely attend this church? Or do I belong to this church? Is this they and them and that church down there, or is that we and us? My family. We'll laugh together, we'll cry together, we'll go through button heads together at times, but we are family. And if it wasn't totally inappropriate, I'd play the old song from the 80s, We Are Family, but that would be way over the top, right? So, ponder what we've said, look it over, mull it over. Give me your thoughts if you'd like to share them. If you're not yet a member of the body of Christ, our baptistry's ready. We're here to help however we can while together we stand and sing.
Would you be free from your burden of sin? There's power in the blood, power in the blood. Would your evil a victory win? There's wonderful power in the blood. There is power, power, wonder-working power in the blood of the Lamb. There is power, power, wonder-working power in the precious blood of the Lamb. Would you be free from your passion and pride? There's power in the blood, power in the blood. Come for a cleansing to Calvary's side. There's wonderful power in the blood. There is power, power, wonder-working power in the blood of the Lamb. There is power, power, wonder-working power in the precious blood of the Lamb. Would you do service for Jesus your King? There's power in the blood, power in the blood. Would you live daily His praises to sing? There's wonderful power in the blood. There is power, power, wonder-working power in the blood of the Lamb. There is power, power, wonder-working power in the precious blood of the Lamb. It's good to see everybody here this morning. Got a good crowd. Appreciate you and like to see everybody back Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock. Is there any other announcements need to be made from anybody this time? Nothing else. We'll ask Mickey to dismiss us.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today as close to our service, thanking you for the opportunity that we've had to come together here today and sing songs of praise and study your word. Pray that everything you said and done here today was in accordance with your will. Pray that we might take the things that we learned here today and apply them to our everyday lives, that we might serve you. Pray that you would be with those prayer requests we're asking for here today. Pray that you would be with our number, that they might get back to a reasonable portion of their health to be your will. Pray that you be with those that are dealing with the loss of friends or loved ones, that they might come to you for comfort, that you might do so as only you can. Pray that you would be with all of us as we leave this place today and help us to